Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Polite Society podcast. I'm Paul Lathrop. I'm the host of the show. We're going to go ahead and bring in everybody. We're not recording yet, but to my right, Amanda Suffolcool. Of course, Amanda is Eye on the Target Radio. To Amanda's right, I've got notifications going off left, right, and center over here. To Amanda's right, John Richardson, Only Guns and Money blog. John has been with me for just about 85 years that I've been broadcasting. Uh, Charlie Cook's only been with me for about 45 years. Charlie is, of course, riding shotgun with Charlie, writing shotgun with Charlie, Charlie's Gungram, and many other. If you're on the internet, you've seen Charlie's stuff, especially if you look at Tom Knighton's Facebook page. Uh, Also, I gotta mention Charlie, of course, and we've just found out tonight, BFFs with Kevin Dixie. Um, and
We
then
did.
to the right of Charlie, Carrie Ann Auclair, Sisters in Arms, a firearms story. Carrie Ann, a regular host here, a co-host here, and going to be our guest tonight, but you're going to lose sight of him in a few seconds. Tom Knighton from Bearing Arms. Tom's going to be our interview tonight. Let's see here. We have got all kinds of people checking in over on YouTube. Let me get Facebook tuned up here because I'm guessing we've got a lot of people on Facebook checking in. I did kind of let everybody know as yesterday that that the show is going to be going on hiatus, and that is true. We'll be talking about that here in just a few minutes. Um, but I've got everything set up. If everybody on my team is ready, I'm going to make a couple adjustments here real quick. I need to you'll see Tom here again in a little bit, but he's going to go blank for a second. And I need to change that one. Yeah. Go put that one there. Okay. If my team is ready, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start hitting buttons and we're going to start recording. All right. Looks like everybody's set. Here we go. Masada Yub coming up in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Polite Society Podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, December the 4th, 2023. I'm Paul Lathrop. Whoops, and it should go to that one. And we lost John's sound. How did we lose John's sound?
There we go.
Oh, no.
There we go.
I'm John Richardson, and on tonight's show, we talk with Tom Knighton of BearingArms.com about a former FBI agent pleading guilty to gun charges.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about a West Virginia judge ruling the laws banning 18 to 20-year-old adults from purchasing handguns and ammunition are unconstitutional.
And if I'm supposed to be reading show notes, I have none.
All right.
She's Amanda Suffolcool, and we're going to talk about an Ohio court shutting down the city of Columbus's efforts to advance gun control in that city. And I'm Carrie Ann Auclair. No.
I'm Carrie Ann. Oh, God. And in one of our defensive gun use stories, when an armed robber attempted to rob Happy Days grocery store in Philadelphia, it turned out not to be so happy or him. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 686 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it is Monday night. It is just after 7 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. Means it's time for another episode of the Polite Society podcast. As I usually do, we're going to go around to all of the hosts here, and we're going to see what everybody's been up to since the last time they've been on the air. Is John, you're up first this week. What's been up with you lately?
Well, I missed a few weeks as we were out of town on family trips, one with Barb's siblings and the other at Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, in that last trip, my granddaughter gave me a cold, which I'm almost over. I apologize in advance if I start coughing. On the first trip, I got to do something I've never done before. Go up in a small plane, single engine, and take the controls for a few minutes. You can see pictures and video of it on my blog. And I'm not going to start pilot training, but would love to go up again. Amanda?
Well, I just returned home from Louisiana, where I was at the Gresham's Range Ready, with Robin Sandoval and Lori Blackwell, from two trainers from across the country. And we went to take a low light, no light firearms class with firearms trainer Chris Sereno. I'm going to recommend to everybody that if you have not taken a low light class, you should do so. And if you've got an opportunity to train in a shoot house, again, do so. So those are the things that I just got done doing. And now I'm sitting and I'm scheduling fashion shows for the 2024, anywhere from Florida to Alaska. And there's so much more stuff that's coming up this year. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so sad that I'm not going to be able to be talking to all y'all about it.
All right.
So who's next? Carrie Ann.
Carrie Ann.
So I just got done testifying last week on November 28th. I was on the panel with Gun Owners Action League Gold. We have a lot of things going on in Massachusetts right now that is really a little upsetting, and Charlie can vouch for that. I have been doing a lot of classes with my own business, ways to be empowered. And AWA, which is Armed Women of America, is in full force. I've had a lot of more women contact me wanting to be responsible for with their firearms and continue their education. And we are trying to get ready for the next bill. It just passed H 4139, just passed through the House. So the Senate's going to grab it. We think they're going to do their own rendition. So we're getting revved up and ready for that. So it's been busy.
All right,
Charlie. You're next.
All right, so I had a class over the weekend, and 3 of the 4 students in the class were under 22 years old. So that was pretty cool to see that young people are getting their licenses to carry. I did a show I had a show come out last week with Will Workman from Workman Protection. He's in West Virginia, so it was cool to knock out a show in West Virginia. Paul, you got some talking to do. Talk to us.
I do. Well, and I put up Dana's comment. He's already checked in, and I let it slip on social media. And I'll go ahead and put me up on the screen here. How do I put this? I've been thinking about this for a very long time. Susan and I have been talking about it for several days. It is time to put the show on hiatus. I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag early in the show, get it out of the way. And why did my sign turn off? I am on the air. I don't know. Anyway, just all kinds of interesting things happening tonight. But as all of you know, I no longer am associated with Second Amendment Foundation, and I've taken a regular job, a regular person job. Not that I didn't have one before, but the job I took, and am working now, I work overnights. And it is really, really, really hard to keep the Polite Society podcast and 3 episodes of Polite Society News in the air and work a regular overnight job, to the point where I'm getting so stressed that I'm worried about my health. With the health scare I had a few years ago, I don't want to push things. Susan and I discussed it, and for at least a while, my head says at least 6 months. We're going to be putting the show on hiatus. I'm gonna stay on the sidelines. I'll check in on social media from time to time, but something's got to give for right now. It's time. And one more thing is, and I wanted to bring this up too, the show, when I switched from just doing shows to working a full-time job and doing shows, it kind of took a lot of the fun out of it. And we'll see when it becomes fun again, I'll start doing it on a regular basis. But I'm thinking this is just it's time for a break. My head says 6 months. My heart doesn't want to do it at all, but we'll see what happens. So that's kind of what's going on with me. I want to get comment in here from CNT. He says, outstanding panel for tonight. I agree. The only one that isn't here that I wish is Rob Morse. Rob has been with me for the longest of anybody, and that is on the air right now. And I really wish Rob could have made it tonight. He's underwater somewhere. So, yeah. And hey, you know what? I want to get... Let me get a couple of comments more in here real quick, and I thought this might happen. This lady named Susan R. Lathrop. And it sounds familiar. Anyway, if something big happens or maybe a special edition show, you guys can't get rid of us that easily, and we'll be posting links to news stories. Absolutely. If you are watching us on the Polite Society Podcast Facebook page, that's not going away. I will daily be, when I do my perusal of news stories, which I don't plan on stopping doing, if I see a news story you need to be aware of, I'll pop it up. You won't get my analysis, or at least not as much, but you'll still be informed. Lot of, wow. Get that one up there. Homestead Reboot. That's Kevin Sona, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Don't Make Me Cry. And somebody on Facebook, Restreambot, This Is Why We Like Susan. And George Geller, you're making the right decision, Paul. Take care of your health. All right, enough about me. The show has never, ever, ever been about me. I was able to do a solo show for all of a couple months, and then I realized that I needed help, and I started bringing people on board. And it's always been about a team, not about me. So let's do this. We're going to step aside to break. When we come back, we have patiently waiting for us. And I got to say, Tom Knighton patiently waits for nobody, but he's patiently waiting for us. We're going to be talking with Tom about some of the articles he's written recently, and especially about that story about the FBI, former FBI agent, pleading guilty to gun charges. Hang on, everybody. We're going to hear from ACLDN. We'll be back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership. and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back. This is the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast. Joining us tonight, as you can see in the bottom right of your screen, Tom Knighton from Bearing Arms. And before we get to Tom's interview, I've got to get this in real quick. We have a comment from somebody on Facebook. There won't be a Christmas party. Yes, there will. Tom's hosting it at his house. He let me know on the break that he's going to have everybody over for a Christmas party at his house. And by the way, all the alcohol is on Tom. So.
Yeah, but that just means I'll be wearing it.
All right. Tom, and thank you, Tom, for coming on short notice. Tom didn't know he was going to be a guest tonight until this afternoon. And I was thinking, who do I have fun with?
Not the first time that's happened either.
Yeah. Who do I have fun with when they're a guest on the show? And my first thought was Tom. Of course, and I got to finish up with my regular introduction with Tom. If you're over at Bearing Arms and you're reading a story, you think, boy, this story's got a lot of attitude, I will guarantee you Tom's the one that wrote that story. Tom, only the police and military should have firearms. Everybody else doesn't. Only the police and only military, and maybe not the police, maybe just the FBI, because the FBI is like the super police. Right. And here we have this story that I caught from you that hit today. Former FBI agent pleads guilty to gun charges. What's up here, man?
Oh, well, this special agent decided that he would go into the FBI lockup and take out a couple of guns, take them home, sold one to a buddy, kept one for himself, and apparently allegedly destroyed one. I don't buy that one. But these were, guns that were, let's see, the one that he kept was a sawed-off shotgun, an NFA item that you and I can't, buy without special licensing. And he just walked out with one. Like I said, he sold one to a buddy, and it was, don't tell anyone where you got this from. Obviously, this is the kind of thing that even if every gun law in America disappeared tomorrow, guns that are in police custody don't get to walk out with FBI agents. They don't get to take those guns home with them just because. And yet, here we are. It's kind of special.
Yeah,
that's what the special and special agent means, apparently.
Well, I was wondering if the special and special agent in his case might be that he rides a short bus to work.
That's the exact kind of special. Yeah.
It matches his shotgun.
All right, John, you're up in show notes with a comment.
Yeah, unfortunately, this doesn't seem the first time that a special agent from the FBI has been brought up and brought up on gun charges. A few years ago, there was a guy down in El Paso that was basically dealing without a license, and they got him for, selling over $100,000 worth of guns. He bought 51 and sold, or he bought 54 and sold 51. Yeah. Basically, as a dealer without an FFL. Also an FBI special agent. He got 2 years probation.
I think it's important to remember that, the FBI, with a lot of people, like any other organization, you're going to have some good people, you're going to have some bad people. But what gets me is there's a lot of people who will look at, we got to have gun control laws, but we're going to put this carve out for law enforcement because they can be trusted. You know, they're different. They're different than the regular folks. They're different from you and me. And I on one hand, I'm the son of a cop, and I get where police have concerns. But I've gotten death threats, and I've never worn a badge. You know, why do they get exemptions when someone like you or I don't? Especially when it's clear that they can be just as much of a criminal as anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what really gets me is about this is that it is the FBI, and we think of them as very special. I have a first cousin who is probably one of the first female special agents who's retired now. My mother worked for the FBI during World War II as a cryptanalyst. I still have the letter telling her she was promoted and signed by J. Edgar Hoover with his actual signature. I mean,
cool.
They were special. They were considered special. And to see them do something ordinary or reprehensible, you know, it's just not right. But you're right. You said it. There's good people and there's bad people in any organization.
Amanda, you look like you have a question or a comment.
Well, the interesting part is that with the Supreme Court and Bruin decision, we're looking for people that have standing on things to take down the NFA, to take the F out of get the F out of the ATF, right? That kind of a thing. So does that mean that this FBI agent can potentially become the Heller of the next level of things to clear all the insides out of the box that is the NFA? Because 1791 history, text, and tradition, 1934 is a different year. So what do you think, Tom?
That's actually a good point, because I mean, if we can have someone like Zaki Rahimi as a challenge, you know, why not have a former FBI agent? I mean, he'd still do time because these are basically, he stole guns from the FBI. But, you know, one of the charges is an NFA charge. Hey, he could, you know, really make the case. You know, that charge shouldn't be there, because, you know, history, text, and tradition, you know, it's actually a good point.
Let me get to some comments here real quick. We've been down this road before. This is Warsaw Patriot. Operation Fast and Furious and the feds are always getting a bad rep, seems like. Well, you know, they kind of are, but they're kind of earning it. Also, Warsaw Patriot here. FBI want Brandon's version of them? Who are you, the FIB or the FIB? And of course, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and fix-ups. So, all right. Let's see here.
I just want to say that ATF should be a convenience store.
Yes, especially now. Don't shortchange it. BATFE.
Explosives.
Yes, very much so.
That should be a convenience store.
It'd be my favorite store. I want a T-shirt that says BATFE, get the F out of here, right? Because it's based on Bruin.
I like it. I like it.
Where's Yehuda? Doesn't he have one of these already?
I don't know.
All right.
Check his website tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, next story I wanted to talk to you about, if I could, Tom. You and John wrote on this week. Remington is finally getting the F out of New York and closing down all operations. They were doing some rifles and shotguns in New York still, but looks like everything is going to Georgia. You want to tell us about that, man?
Yeah, it's they'd already announced in 2021, I think. They were, you know, moving their headquarters down here to Georgia, which great for us. But they were keeping that plant in operation. It's been in operation since like 1816 or something, well before the Civil War. And then they announced they're shutting it down. And my only question is, what took them so long to leave a state that hates them?
Yeah. John, now you wrote about this as well. Is there any part of Remington that's staying behind in New York now?
Not that I can see.
So I
Yeah,
believe
it looks
that
like
in the
everything's out.
Yeah, I believe that in the beginning they said that they were going to do a slow walk in the move to try to be respectful to the employees who had given their entire lives and careers to working for the company. Because it's really tough when you're trying to move a plant like this, because you've got people, as much as you want to say, well, we've got jobs in Georgia and you can come down, or Tennessee, or wherever a plant moves to, and you're there. People aren't as portable as companies are. And so people, because their kids are in school or their grandkids are there or their parents are near or whatever, there are a wide variety of things that keep someone tied to a community that may not be anything about their politics. And so this is really a sad day for some people, because their company up and left them. That's sort of why it took them so long, I really think, because it's a hard decision to make when you're making an impact on everybody's life when you make that decision.
And when you've been someplace 200 years, there's always going to be some hesitancy, even without that. Like 200 years in the same place, you just kind of feel like, or at least me, I don't really want to just break a tradition like that. You never break the streak on purpose. And so I could kind of get that's some hesitancy with that too. But on the same token, New York has declared war on the Second Amendment. They're a company that feeds into the Second Amendment. It put them in a bad spot. Really did.
Yeah, how many times are you supposed to get slapped in the face before you're saying, okay, this is enough. Yeah. I have to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No
you can't be Kevin Bacon. You can't be Kevin Bacon in Animal House with the whole "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
Yeah.
When Smith and Wesson made the announcement that they were moving down to Tennessee, I remember reading a couple articles about out in the Springfield area where people were saying that, oh, this is all political, and I'm like, yeah, it's political. Massachusetts doesn't want the guns that they make here. Why should they stay here? Mm-hmm. They should get up and leave.
Yeah. You take a dump. Basically take a dump on an entire industry that's predicated on supplying the means for a basic civil liberty. And then when they go, okay, well, we're going to go someplace that doesn't hate us. And you're like, well, yeah, it's all political. Well, yeah, and you made it so.
I mean, and if you look at the plan itself, it's old, it's outdated. Down in Georgia and LaGrange, they have CNC machines. And I know there's an argument about keeping, you're losing all those machinists. But when you look at modern CNC machines, modern other machinery, the tolerances are so good that the need for hand fitting really isn't there anymore.
Want to get
and it's going to hamper quality control.
Want to get to a couple comments here real quick. Homestead Reboot, again, that's Kevin Sona, says, still waiting for Carr to leave Mass. I'm assuming that's Massachusetts. And you may be waiting a while for that one. Maybe not, but
they just bought property in Tennessee.
Yeah. Barry Anderson on the Facebook side said, and we've gone to this one, this is not a new conversation. Does that mean the gun owners should also up and leave? Charlie, since we seem to be hated by the politicians. Charlie, that one's pointed at you, dude.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Like Amanda said, you have to realize, do you have family here? What kind of roots do you have here? Um, yeah, if a little angel came down and pranked her wand on my life, yeah, I think I'd move. I don't think I'd move. I would move.
All right.
But I think that the thing you've got to do though is you've got to urge folks who are 2A advocates to stay. I mean, we were talking to a couple months ago when Goal had their event in Mass, and I was looking for a topic to talk about, and I settled on why don't you stay? Because we really do need good people to fight in these states, because otherwise we'll just get crowded into a tighter and tighter space, and more people will think that they're winning, and more states will turn into this anti-gun legislative New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California thing if people aren't there digging in and pushing back.
Right. I agree with you, Amanda. I really do, because I just had this conversation with somebody earlier today, because I think a lot of people, especially right now in Massachusetts, they say to me, why vote? Why should I go to a hearing? Why should I testify? It's not going to make any difference. And I said to them, it is. You will make a difference. You are going to make a difference. If we all have that same mentality, we're going to fold up and we're going to die. We cannot stop. We have to go forward, be strong, be brave, and use our voices.
I every time this comes up, I'm reminded back when this has been a few years ago. We were we were doing a remote broadcast from a local store here, ABN Army Surplus, and we were. You might have even been on with me, John. This is just about the time you started, but we were doing live broadcasts, and we were all on Google Plus Hangouts, which hasn't been around for a couple of years, but we had a comment that come in off of Google Plus that I absolutely loved, and I remember to this day. We were talking about this. I brought up, look, there's a lot of free states. There's a lot of states that are looking for people to come in. Free states generally have good economies, need people to work. You know, South Dakota specifically is begging for people to come work for us, with us. Come here. And this guy from New York said, look, I was a U.S. Army Ranger. We're not used to running and hiding. I've never retreated in my professional life. I don't feel like retreating now. And I loved that comment. That comment has stuck with me forever. Yeah, we also need people that are going to stay and fight, just like Amanda said.
Yep.
So
don't give up on us. Don't give
absolutely.
up on the rest of us that decide to stay. We need you.
And one more, and then we got to head to break. Gun websites. And by the way, hey, gun websites, I seen you comment 13 minutes before we went live. Gun websites was there giving us a thumbs up, commenting. Thank you, gun websites. He says, you can't move away from tyranny to defeat it. You absolutely can't. All right, we are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got one more segment with Tom Knight, and as long as he doesn't say to heck with it and go away from us. We'll be right back, folks, right after we hear from the good people at JPFO. JPFO. We'll get to Complete Combat the next break. We'll be right back right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Will Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
All right, we are back. This is our second segment with Tom Knighton of Bearing Arms, another interview segment of the Polite Society podcast. And Tom, the next story I wanted to talk to you about, this actually hit late last week, but we haven't been on the air in a week. And I wanted a town in Michigan has formed a militia to resist Gretchen Whitmer's gun control laws. I love this story. Can you give us a little bit of background on this one, man?
Yeah, it's a town that basically, it's described as a township. I don't really know what the differentiation officially is in Michigan. But they decided they were going to be a Second Amendment sanctuary. But realistically, they understood that you could declare yourself a sanctuary if you want. You got to have some teeth. So they basically said, all right, we're creating a militia. Be part of the militia, you just have to basically tell someone you're part of the militia. It's like the easiest way to join. I mean, if my enlistment had been that simple, it would have been great. But no, this is much easier. And the idea is that if Whitmer tries to push it and say, nope, you are going to enforce gun laws whether you want to or not, you're going to have a number of people there saying, bring it on.
You know, and this goes right into the Whitmer's thing. The National Guard should have guns. That's the Second Amendment. The Army should have guns. That's Second Amendment. Of course, my security guards should have guns. But it says a well-regulated militia. And even according to the anti-gunners definition, creating a militia, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So,
right. If when you take that, a lot of anti-gunners like to focus on that introductory clause there, and I really want to see them try to make that same claim with these people, because this is an official local militia. This is essentially an entity created by an act of a governmental body. It sounds to me like this should click everything they would want.
Amanda, go.
I think that the one question that needs to be asked to this group is, at least in Ohio, townships are the rural. So a county is modularized, and there's squares, and some of them you've got villages, some of them you've got cities or towns, and then there's the rest of us. And the rest of us, it's gridded out, and they're townships. So the question becomes is who polices that area? In Ohio, that is the county sheriff. So there's city police, there's town police, and then the county is the guy who runs each one of the townships. So it'd be interesting to talk to the county sheriff that oversees that township to see what their statement is. In my little rural burg, my sheriff says that if the government gets out of control, he will deputize us all. So
now that works too. NRA board member Amanda Suffolk, soon to be, we'll have to call her Deputy Suffolk.
He's like, when it goes like this, anybody who wants to, we'll deputize. I'm like,
I wish my county sheriff would.
There is that. I mean, Ohio also has an official and an unofficial militia, and so it's in the Ohio Revised Code. And so my answer always is, when they start talking about that, it's like, okay, so if there's an unofficial militia that says that we need to be at the ready for the state should they need us, you just tell me what caliber gun I need to have to match the ammo that you're going to supply me, and I'll be all good about that.
I'm going to put this comment up without comment. Just going to leave that right there.
I said cities. Cities. I do not have a speech impediment. I do not care what my phone says when I do voice to text.
Now we know why it's CNT. Just because it gets us mixed up.
And
Ci-
Sandhills
cities are-
Media
cities
says,
are proud.
hashtag, I want to be like Deputy Suffolcool.
Nice.
New shirt. New
That's
shirt.
amazing.
telling
Yeah.
ya.
New shirt. Absolutely.
Oh.
Dear God.
All right, and one more story, Tom, I wanted to talk to you about. You know, this is unfortunate. You wrote about this story. Florida seeks to punish irresponsible shooters. I kind of agree with you. I wish this weren't needed, but it almost seems like in cases it is. Can you tell us a little bit about the background on this story?
Yeah, a woman was working on her barn and on her property, working with her horse, and was struck by a stray bullet. It luckily did not have enough energy to do any major damage. It was really the article describes it as a graze, but it was still fired from someone else's property, crossed the property lines, and struck her. Now I think we all know that but all the different ways that could have gone very differently. But apparently, she went and tried to talk to the people. It was a nursery some people were shooting, at, and they were very, very belligerent to her. Not even oh my God, I'm so sorry. We'll see to it that never happens again. And what they're now looking at potentially doing is creating a law where you face punishment if your round leaves your property. You can fire in your yard if, within, certain framework, I guess. But, if that bullet leaves your property, and presumably does something to attract attention to the fact that it left your property, you're facing punishment. Now, if I remember right, it's, like Paul said, I wrote about this about a week ago, and I read a lot of stuff. But I want to say it was looking at like a year in prison and a potential fine. But I don't like the idea of having a law to regulate this. But on the same token, if your round leaves your property and strikes someone else, you could sit here all day long and say, well, the odds of that are slim. Yeah, but slim isn't zero.
You're absolutely
Get a berm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're shooting the backyard, build a berm. It's not rocket science.
See if I can find it here while I'm thinking, and I don't see it, so we're just gonna go without it. I was looking for my little sound effect of the choir because I'm about to bring up he who must be exalted's name. Masada Ayub often says, and there's supposed to be a sound effect that goes, ah.
Oh, we can all do
We
that.
can do it together.
Masada Ayub often says there's a lawyer attached to every bullet that leaves your gun. And I hate to say this, but we have to individually be responsible for every single round that leaves our firearm. And this may be the lady that introduced this is a Democrat. I hate to say I agree with the Democrat. However, if you're not going to be responsible, somebody's got to make you be responsible.
Right, and this bill does actually address irresponsibility versus, well, this person's irresponsible, so nobody can shoot in their backyard. Nobody can shoot on their own property. This is, don't be a dumbass. Pardon the language, but
That's how they
don't be an idiot.
Name it that.
I agree, but no, I mean this is one of the most basic, one of the most fundamental firearm rules. The 4 rules: know what's your target and what's beyond it.
Yes.
Well, if what's beyond it is 300 yards of open field, don't shoot.
Well, I have a friend of mine.
Oh, go, John.
I was going to say, you had talked about a berm, and I had a friend that was shooting in his backyard. I'm in the mountains. He was shooting into a hill, but it must have hit a rock. It went up and over the hill